All right, welcome back to another week of the NASCAR Weekly Forecast. This is our second to last week of the regular season, and then we start the playoffs. Again, just for some of you NASCAR newbies and those who like the jalapeno poppers, here's the deal. 16 cars qualify for the playoffs. There's now 13 cars that have won Michael McDowell last week. So, we'll talk a lot about driver intent and everything this week. Guys that have to win or qualify on points to make the playoffs. We'll go a lot more into the bubble next week. This week, a guy like Chase Elliott, because he's been out, he's got to win to get in. But as we'll see, he does great at this track at Watkins, Glen, where we're headed this week. So the way the playoffs work, for those of you that are new, the top 16 drivers, either by win, if you win, you're in, or by points, those 16 drivers advance to the playoffs. But the subsequent 10 races all have, so it's a round of 16, there's 3 races, round of 12, there's 3 races, round of 8, there's 3 races, and then the final 4, there's 1 race. All those races have full fields, but only guys eligible who've advanced qualify to win the title. But it's not like just 16 guys are going to be running the first week of the playoffs. There will be, full fields of 36 and 38 cars. Now, last week was a road course, Indy road course. This is a traditional road course at Watkins Glen in New York. Next week, the last week to qualify for the playoffs, is Daytona, which is a super speedway. So super speedway is very unpredictable. Road courses, we went 3-3 last week, for top 10s. Michael McDowell, we had for top 10. He won the race. Ty Gibbs, not so much. And then for our top 5s, Tyler Reddick and Chase Elliott had top 5s. We cashed on those. Buescher and Allmendinger did not. So Allmendinger is a guy who has good road course history, but is not a great year this year. Whereas McDowell and Buescher are 2 of the hottest drivers in the series. So we like them. Chris Bell is a guy who does well at road courses, as you'll see, but I think I bet him 21 times this year in 24 races. I don't think I'm going to play him this week, even though he's a good value. He just didn't have it for me last week. Chris Bell, there's only value for him in a top 5, not necessarily a top 10, especially on a road course. And he just didn't get it done. So again, this is the Go Bowling at the Glen. It'll be 90 laps, 221 miles over a traditional road course, 2.45 miles, and it'll be broadcast to a national television audience, 3 p.m. on the USA Network on Sunday. Again, if there is inclement weather, and I haven't even looked, but if there is, they will still run because it's a road course. They'll just run slick tires. Speaking of tires, this is the 6th time teams will use this particular tire, this tire code, the 18-inch radial by Goodyear, they will use. So the way they describe this course is there's more, raw speed on it than being technical. So again, when you think of that, it comes down more to setup and having a fast car. And if you look, 11 of the last 12 winners have come from place 6th or better. So that means they qualified, and this race wasn't run in 2020, so COVID. So most of the years they run this race, they have practice and qualified. So 11 of the last 12 winners have come from 6th or better, and 6 of the last 12 have come from 3rd or better. There's only been 1 pole winner. And then the last 19, Chevy has won 12. So in the last 4 renewals of this race. Kyle Larson has won it the last 2 times, and then Chase Elliott the 2 times before that. So again, I think it's interesting this week as a bettor what you're going to do, because if you wait, so obviously track position is extremely important at this track, as we'll see later. 11 of the last 12 have started 6th or better. So, but you've got to take a chance that the guys that are short prices are going to qualify well. And if they do, what does that mean? It means that their value is going to go down. So a guy like Elliott, I just have to assume he's going to roll off fast. And a guy that'll definitely roll off fast is Bell. He usually qualifies well. Reddick usually qualifies well. Harvick is a guy who we don't particularly like this week. He doesn't always qualify great. But again, we're not necessarily looking just for outrights. If we look at our market watch this week, Chase is 3.25, 325 plus 325, and there's 3 other guys. So Chase Elliott qualifies well. He's going to be 2-1 to win this race, which is, as we always say, that's crazy. It's a car race. A lot can happen. So, we're going to look at those top 3 markets, at least for Chase this week, then top 5 and top 10. But again, very, very hard to get track position, as you saw last week. Once Michael McDowell was running well, and there were a couple passes, once he got to the lead and the pit strategy, the pit cycle kind of worked for those leaders, the race stayed green the entire race. There wasn't a caution except lap 3. There were no cautions in the race. So these guys really had to focus and lock in. They rode for 2.5 hours straight, no cautions, because remember, there's no caution between the stages. So if it plays out great, and we're going to look when we go in this week at how many cautions there usually are at Watkins Glen. But the thing we feared going into last week was a late stage caution, right? And there being chaos going into turn 1 at Indy. That just simply didn't come to fruition because it stayed green the whole time. So that's kind of what we're looking at as far as that. So we're going to go ahead and actually, before we go ahead and look at metrics, let's just go ahead and look at the last however many. So LC is last caution. Is lead changes. My bad. Lead changes. So caution is CAU. That's the third count. So look at this. Single digit lead changes, except in 2022 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 out of the last 9. And then cautions. I mean, 2016 when Hamlin won, it was a caution fest. There are cautions at this track. I mean, if you look at it, you got to subtract 2 from all these because there's no stage cautions, which came around in 2021. Excuse me, but there will be some cautions in the race, so that affects pit strategy, because if you're out, and it depends, if you stayed out, then there's a caution, you get lucky, whatever. And that's just a huge implication. And that's where really live betting comes into play. And now we're going to go ahead and look at our metrics. So the last 10 races at the Glen, Chase Elliott, who, as we discussed, is in a must-win scenario this week. Either this week or next week. And don't get me wrong, he runs well at Daytona, but this team ran super well last week, and they really have this road course set up. Hendrick Motorsports has this road course set up, kind of nailed. So Elliott, Bell, Reddick, Truex, AJ Allmendinger, Kyle Larson, Eric Jones is a guy, Kyle Busch, Daniel Suarez, and Kevin Harvick. Last 10 at the Glen. Last 5 at the Glen. Elliott, look at that, 4.2 average finish. Truex has done well. Chris Bell, again, has only run twice because they didn't run in his rookie year. and they only go to this track once a year. Kyle Larson, look at him. He's got 2 wins, as we mentioned, the last 2. Tyler Reddick has only been in Cup 3. This is his 4th season, but they didn't run. So AJ Allmendinger is a part-time Cup guy until, this year. 8.7, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Eric Jones, and Kyle Busch. So last 5 at the Glen. Road course last 10. So this incorporates road and street courses. So Chase Elliott, 7.1 average finish. 3 guys average a top 10, right? Buescher and McDowell are the other 2. And if you look, McDowell, until last week, does not win, on road courses. He did last week, but he finishes well. He's always in there. And again, not a very well-funded team. I know there was some made of that this week on Denny Hamlin's podcast. Not a very well-funded team, kind of the Rodney Dangerfield of it, Front Row Motorsports is. But Michael McDowell is a very patient driver. And again, that's when we talk about, betting NASCAR, looking at these teams, there's a huge disparity in the amount of equipment, in the amount of staff, in the amount of technology that some of these higher budget teams like Joe Gibbs and Hendricks have compared to, Rick Ware Racing and even Front Row Motorsports, which is what Michael McDowell is a part of. So, but Michael McDowell is a great, very patient driver. So patience is rewarded on super speedways. He's a past Daytona champ. And on road courses, where it's not as much how fast your car is as it's, really how well you drive. So Austin Cindric, Tyler Reddick, last 10 road courses, Chris Bell, Kevin Harvick, Chastain, Bowman, Larson, and Byron. Last 10 on a road course. Last 5 at the Glen points. Chase Elliott, that should read 181. So Chase Elliott has 181 points in the last 5 at the Glen. Larson, Truex, Hamlin, Busch, Harvick, Jones, Byron, McDowell, and Suarez. So this shows, again, consistency. You get points for every, stage points. So this shows that they've been running well throughout the races and shown consistency. And the last 10 at the Glen, if you look at it, Chase Elliott's only run 6 times, and these are active drivers only. So you have guys like Truex, Busch, Hamlin, Harvick, Larson, Logano, Chase, and Keselowski. But again, Chase has only run 6 times, and he's 7th in points. Laps led at the Glen last 10. And then again, Chase has only been there, but look at the number of laps. He has been dominant at this racetrack. Now he's coming in a must-win scenario. Team ran well last week. He's done well here. He has the speed. He has the performance. Watch him go. I would leave, if you like him, and if you like him, you're gonna have to dedicate a significant portion of your bankroll to him just because he's so short. I'm actually in that camp. I'm thinking of doing that. If you're going to do that, I'd get him early. So if he qualifies well, you're right. You're not going to get it. So you almost have to look at it like that. Busch, Keselowski, Truex, AJ Allmendinger, Larson, Harvick, Logano, Hamlin, and Suarez laps led last 10 at the Glen. Last 5 at the Glen, Chase Elliott, look at that. 170 laps led. Almost 3 times as many as the closest person. So once again, he's going to qualify well. He's going to get to the front. He's going to stay at the front. And conversely, the same thing can be said for like a Kyle Larson, even a Tyler Reddick. These road course ringers, McDowell and Buescher are good. I don't know if they're necessarily at that level, but these road course ringers, these guys that win on road courses, they get to the front and they stay at the front. So if we look, this is not necessarily a speed thing, but look at Tyler Reddick, 3 wins, at road courses in the last 10, right? Bell has won, Larson's won, Chastain has won. So that's the way you look. Okay, total speed rating at the Glen. This really illustrates our point that it's very important to be fast because of the track position. So if you look, only uh, 8 of the 10 fastest cars finished in the top 10. Todd Gilliland was fastest. He crashed out midway through the race. He finished 38th. McDowell was second fastest, which is great for him. Again, that kind of goes against what we said with his team, but they really brought him a fast car last year. He finished sixth. Joey Logano, Penske, Ford hasn't really done super well at these road courses, but third and third. Chris Buescher, fourth and ninth. Daniel Suarez, fifth and fifth. AJ Allmendinger ran well at this track last year. Chase was seventh fastest, finished fourth. Cole Custer, who's not in the series anymore, he's in the Xfinity series. Ryan Preece now occupies the 41 Ford Stewart Haas. He was eighth fastest, finished 11th. Chris Bell was tied for eighth fastest. He finished eighth. And Kyle Larson was that should be a nine. Oh man, I'm slipping this week. These guys will figure. He was ninth fastest and finished first, or 10th fastest and finished first. So again, if you look, McDowell was fast, finished well. Logano fast, finished well. Chase, out finished his speed, but these guys were all right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, of the fastest cars all finished in the top 5. That's not, you don't see that at a super speedway. You saw it at the Glen last year where, that pure speed is very, very important. Total speed ratings heading into the Glen. So this is speed ratings for road courses and street courses. So Reddick, McDowell, Bowman, Elliott, Bell, Buescher, Allmendinger, Gibbs, Suarez, Larson, Byron, and Truex. And this next one, thanks to our friends at iFantasy Racing, this one is good. This is the total speed ratings for traditional road courses since 2022. So this excludes Rovals, which Charlotte is a Roval, Indy Road Course is a Roval, because it's a road course within an oval. And Chicago Street Course. These are just typical traditional road courses. So COTA, Sonoma, Road America, and the Glen last year, COTA and Sonoma this year. And again, these are not finishes, performance chart. This is speed. Look who's got the most speed at these tracks. If you think of it here, you could say Chevy, although Reddick, as we've said ad nauseum on this, was Toyota until this year. But then you got Ford, Chevy. You don't have a Toyota in here except for Chris Bell, who's ninth. There's no other Toyotas, although you could say Tyler Reddick, asterisk, was a Toyota in 1, 2, 3, 4, in 4 of the 6 races of the sample size, 2/3 of the sample size, he was a Toyota, but he's a Chevy now. So that's the way we look at it. Chevys do well here. Definitely they're short. I think Chevys are plus 120 to win this week, which is very short. But if you look here, a guy like Joey Logano is not, on here. A guy like Ryan Blaney is not on here. A guy like Denny Hamlin is not on here. A guy like Bubba Wallace is not on here. Bubba Wallace is in the fight, a pretty strong fight to make the playoffs. He's there on points, but you never know if someone else wins, whatever. And we'll discuss that. Playoff picture will be very crystal clear going into next week. Bubba Wallace is right there, but either needs to win or have a good points week. Another guy, Kevin Harvick, is not on this list. So there we go with that. And then I just want to go through and look at Buescher and Bell and McDowell, their last 10. their last 10 at this place at the Glen. So McDowell 10 times. But look, he hasn't started well. He hasn't qualified well, but he had a great run last year and he won last week. So again, the first 3 times of sample size, there was a gear problem, a suspension, a crash, but he's finished every race, that he's run, the last 7 here at the Glen. The other guy I wanted to take a look at was Eric Jones. So Eric Jones has run here 5 times. Look, there's no secret. The time, except for in 2019, when he finished 4th, starting 14th, 6th to 10th, 9th to 5th. Look at last year. I had him last year. I remember this. He started 31st. He finished 10th, so he made his way up the field, but he just couldn't go further. So he's a guy that there'll be some value on with the top 10. And then the last guy we want to look at is Chris Buescher. So Buescher only has 1 top 10 at this place. But look, the 11th place finish, the 13th place finish, and, last year, the 9th place finish. So we're going to go and share the screen here and look at our picks for the week, if we can. So Chase Briscoe is a guy who has had just a miserable, horrible, awful season, but he ran well that last week. He had a top 10, and he's a decent road course racer last 10. I'm going to kind of go off screen here. You're just going to have to trust me. I'm on racingreference.com. If I can, I'm just going to look at Briscoe's, if I can. Oh, it's brought me to a ad for the Moose here. So see Briscoe's. I believe he's a pretty good road course racer. So in the last 10, last week he finished 6th. Charlotte, he finished 9th. Glen last year here, he started 14th, finished 25th. His car just, I think that, looking at value this week and looking at the board, he's just a guy who we're going to use just at a price. We think he, ran well last week. Stuart Haas is, going to have this car tuned in, and we're getting some value. Top 5, we're going to go with Reddick, who is a top 5 machine at these road courses, and Michael McDowell, who we expect to run well. And then Chase Elliott, what we're going to do with him is, instead of taking the plus 325, which I foresee going down after practicing qualifying, we're going to take him as a strong play at plus 100 for a top 3. And usually in a conventional race, either a super speedway race or a cookie cutter race, top 3, you could throw a blanket on these cars, in the last lap. And it's a matter of inches or centimeters for these guys to finish in the top 3. In a road course, not necessarily. The cream rises to the top. He's going to be trying everything. And he, every point counts. Granted, it's going to be very hard for him to get in without a win, but I like his chances for a top 3. I really do. And then the prop we're going to go with is Hendrick to win at plus 120. So again, you're getting Kyle Larson, who's won this race 2 years in a row. You're getting Chase Elliott, who won the race the previous 2 years and has to win. And you're getting Alex Bowman, who runs well, and William Byron, who's one of the, well, he's not one of the hottest drivers now, but he's one of the top drivers in the series points-wise. So that's kind of what we're looking at this week in terms of that. Couple other plays that kind of piqued my interest. And again, if anyone's interested in more plays as we get closer to the race, my DMs are open on Twitter. It's at Ross Blacker, ROSSBLACKER on Twitter. More than happy to discuss it. Again, it's tough this time of week with the markets, to come up with strong plays. But another play I liked a little bit was a Busher top 5 at plus 275 at Caesars. I kind of like that a little bit too. But really honed in on Chase, and Chase Elliott just is not playable. At DraftKings and Caesars, he's minus 200, minus 175 for a top 5. He's just not playable. So we're going to look at him for a top 5, a top 3 rather. A top 3. So there we are. We're gonna, this week, again, it's hard because as the race goes on and there gets to become separation, unless there's something that happens crazy late, it's very hard to find value after a second stage of these road course races. Also, especially because there's no stage breaks. So there's no chance for it really to reset. So it just kind of keeps going. There's going to be some cautions this week, as we saw on the chart, which are, whatever. It kind of puts a monkey wrench into things sometimes. But, Chase Elliott's a guy that has to do well. Briscoe's a guy that, has had a little resurgence this season. He's a proven road course guy to some extent, and he ran well last week. Granted, it was at, a Roval, and it's in his home state. But we like him this week. He always tries. And then Tyler Reddick is a guy that can always depend and rely on. I'd look at Bell too, but I'd shop around prices for him. All right, I will. We'll look forward to Daytona next week, which will close out the regular season, and then we'll get into the playoffs. Always exciting time of year. NASCAR playoffs starting, college and pro football starting, the baseball playoffs. Golf, unfortunately, I know there's some good. You'll have the Ryder Cup, but the golf playoffs, the FedEx Cup, will be decided, by the end of August. There's only 2 events left for that. But exciting time in sports, and we love motorsports, so we'll keep our eyes peeled. All right, good luck, everybody.